It's a lovely Saturday morning again, and we thank you very much for joining us on our special live studio coverage of ONDO State Governorship election. Of course, it's today, 10th of October 2020. My name is Sonny Duke Okosun, welcoming you on board the program. Well, in today's program, our focus will be on unearthing, unraveling, and bringing you up to speed with all the key issues that will determine the outcome of today's election. But first, I'd like to welcome very specially our panelists to the studio in this first segment of our conversations on ONDO State Governorship election. And just to also let you know that our panelists have very detailed and robust knowledge about the goings on in ONDO State, and of course they'll be availing us that in the course of the program. And then we also have a crack team of reporters deployed to the 3 senatorial districts of ONDO State to ensure that we give you all the updates, up to the minute update of the election as it's going down. As is a tradition, as we get on with this program, they will be calling in, giving us a live report on the situation in ONDO State Governorship election. You be rest assured that you can count on us to give you all the updates that you need, all the information that you need as the election unfolds. But first, let me welcome our panelists to this live studio on ONDO State Governorship election 2020. From my extreme left, let me thank Comrade Christopher Ojekere, Program Officer with Foundation for Good Governance and Social Change. Comrade, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sonny. Good to be here.
We also have with us in the studio a legal practitioner, Barrister Alakwe Mbanefo. Barrister Alakwe, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
We have Sir Adams Ali with us, a legal practitioner, public affairs commentator, and also a journalist. Barrister Adams Ali, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, moderator. Good day, viewers.
Well, let me start with Barrister Adams Ali. Give us your historical perspectives on ONDO State as we look at this 2020 election.
Well, ONDO State is a very interesting state politically, because some years back, a friend, an ally of the then city governor, Olusegun Mimiko, broke diplomatic and political relations with the city governor, Agagu. He wasn't in government here, he had lost primary to Agagu. Then he was given ministerial post in Abuja. He now came in Abuja, contested with the city governor under the platform of an unknown party, as it were, Labour Party. And lo and behold, he won the election. That brought Labour Party to the limelight there. He was not in government. He contested under the platform of an own party and won the election. So today now he's the national leader of Labour Party, although it has metamorphosed to Zenith Labour Party. It is at variance with what is happening today historically, where a sitting deputy governor is fighting it out with a sitting governor. 2 of them are contesting. Before now, what we used to have would be a governor, he will be outgoing, he may not want his deputy to succeed him. A president will be outgoing, like Obasanjo, he will not want Atiku to succeed him. In the yesteryears of Western politics, Awolowo was an outgoing premier. His successor, Akintola, did not go around well with him. So were many other places. Those days, the Premier Eastern Region left office, Ozumba Badiwe took over, so it has been successor irregularity. But this time around, the 2 of them are still governors. In fact, for the next 2 months, they still be governors because they are tenure and non-expired, and they are contesting among themselves. Bola Ajayi now went to Zenith Labour Party. He's talking it out with the incumbent governor. Then the Ondo State scenario is that historically they have an unwritten agreement, as it were. The present governor Mimiko is from the central senatorial districts, while Akeredolu, the former governor Mimiko was from central. Akeredolu is from the north of Ondo State. Now, the south is waiting patiently, thinking that it will be their turn in 2024. It is akin to the scenario in Edo State, where the former governor came from Edo North, sitting governor from Edo South. The central is waiting patiently that it will be their turn. That's why they went all out, because they felt that it was easier to support somebody who was only want them to do, and because they can cry for it, or than they vote for somebody else coming afresh who may be ambitious
for a two-term.
For two-term.
Okay.
So it is the reverse is the case in Ondo, where the South is eyeing the position in 2014, because Mimiko was from Ondo's Central, Keredolu, Edo North. So this is the configuration as it were, and Ondo State itself is interesting because policemen and soldiers are numbering over 40,000. It was not as tough. There have been gunshots, there have been fighting, there have been killings. In fact, a week or so ago, the convoy of Akeredolu was waylaid on the road during his campaigns. Few days after the convoy of the PDP candidates, Yagede was equally waylaid, so it has been very rough. But police IGP have assured us that there will be peace. There was a peace talk, peace accord. Tuesday it was signed. Eminent Nigerians were present. Former military head of state Abdulsalam Abubakar, Sultan of Sokoto, Catholic Bishop Hassan Koka, the political party, the secretary promised that there be no bloodshed. We wish them safe and sound election without loss of blood. Meanwhile, it has been very turbulent and there were losses which ought not to be.
Thank you very much, Sir Adam Saliu, for that very interesting historical perspectives on those states. Let me get Alakwe Mbanefo to lap up on some of the thoughts that Sir Adam Saliu just shared with us.
Yeah, I think Ali is, you can't say that knows so much of this country, having crisscrossed all through the political landscape of Nigeria, NCNC, UPA and all that. Look at that stage, a very senior lawyer, a man we respect so much. So he has laid a very great foundation as per ONDO state election today. I would not like to go back to what he has said, having captured it succinctly. So what I want to say is that today, the whole world is looking at ONDO state. The whole world is looking at INEC. The whole world is looking at security apparatus in Nigeria. We are all looking at the electorates, and we are looking forward to seeing a replica of what transpired in Edo State a few weeks ago in Ondo State. And anything short of that will amount to Mahmoud, Yakub's, INEC, probably seeing what transpired in Edo State as a fluke. To whom much is given, much is expected. And like you said, you saw what happened a few weeks ago in Edo State. 90% of the populace said the election was free and fair. And the APC government described the president, Muhammad Buhari, as a Democrat, looking at what transpired in Edo State. And the president also congratulated Obaseki and INEC for conducting free, fair, peaceful, and credible election. And before now, we expected, like my next colleague said, before the election, Western world marked some governors as enemies of democracy, and I think we expect that those on ground will learn from that, because if anything today happens contrary to that, we may have also on our blacklist more enemies of democracy looking at the ONDO election. And I think we expect the best out of it. Having look at what transpired in Edo State a few weeks ago. Thank you, sir.
Chris, yeah.
Yes, it's been very interesting, and it's still going to continue to be interesting. But let me start from the end where he stopped. Everybody is looking towards peace. That is non-negotiable, irrespective of the party that you belong to. If we don't have a peaceful election today, as he said, even Yakubu himself is aware of that responsibility. Because it was Yakubu who first told his personnel, that is INEC officials, that they should prove that what happened in the Edo was not a flash in the pan, that it can be replicated, that all the integrity of the election, all the peace that was enjoyed during the process, and how INEC officials did their work with dispatch were not, you know, a flash in the pan. So we are expecting that INEC want to maintain that integrity and maintain that reputation. And by that very extension, we appeal to politicians. Politicians in Edo have shown that they have come of age. They showed maturity during the election. And even after the election, we are seeing that maturity continuing. So having said that and established peace, if we have 40,000 policemen in a particular state, that is more number of policemen than you have in some countries. I don't know whether Gambia has up to 40,000 policemen. So if we have 40,000 policemen in a particular state, then we should expect, because as Daddy said here, there have been so much pre-election violence, which was totally unnecessary. There was violence in Akoko, there was violence in Ikpele, there was violence in Akure, there was violence in Owo, there was violence in other places in Ondo State. It's totally unnecessary. As he said, convoys of 2 of the candidates were attacked just pre the election. Well, I'm happy that they have succeeded in attracting the entire world's focus, especially Nigeria and the presidency and the IG's focus to Ondo State. So we want peace there. But beyond that, it's going to be a very interesting election. Daddy tried to give us a historical perspective. Ondo has always known to be turbulent. If you remember the case of Omobori Owo in 1983, I was still young then, but I took note of the man. He was supposed to be an engineer who got involved in politics in Ondo. You remember the time of Ajasi and all of that. So Ondo, because of the fact that give it to them, that is the state that you could easily say has the highest number of professors and PhDs in this country. So you have a very enlightened society academically. And because of that, ideologies are flowing around the environment. And these ideologies are very close to heart and easily spark off emotional, reactions. So this leads to turbulence where you are having things like politics. So coming down to the present scenario, it's going to be very interesting because we actually have a tripartite contest this morning. Unlike Edo State where we just had a 2-way horse race. Here we are having 3 candidates you cannot discountenance because of the 3 persons or 3 people, as it were, that are behind and with this 3 candidates. You have the governor, who has a constituency, is the governor of the state. And you have the deputy governor, who is still serving. And that is right to point out a very interesting scenario, perhaps the first time in Nigerian history, that you're having a serving governor and a serving deputy governor going head-on against each other. And then you now have Eyitayo Jegede from the PDP, who was a candidate in 2016, who ran against the present incumbent and pursued an intra-party case down to the Supreme Court and won at the Supreme Court that, he was illegally elected candidate for that party. But it was too late, as at the time he won, to have been able to create any upset. The election was already halfway running. Halfway running, and it was getting near election. So he couldn't put his house in order. Now, it is interesting, however, that when he came back this time, he didn't have that kind of problem with the PDP, his party, and he got the ticket on the platter of gold. But what he has also done beyond the ticket and after the ticket, our matters that may come up as we are discussing here, because they are going to come to play, and they are going to, yes. And then the role of Agbola Ajayi, who is the deputy. Agbola Ajayi was with the governor in APC, and then maybe he got ambitions, or for whatever reason, it could be internal problem between he and the governor, whatever it is here, we don't want to conjecture. But what we know for a fact is that he decided to move on to the PDP. Now, when he moved on to the PDP, in a very short while, he moved on again to Zenith Labour Party. And people say, analysts say, the reason he did that was because he thought that having established such a running battle with the present governor, he was going to have the ticket for free as he moved into the PDP. But the PDP doesn't run that way. And so he couldn't have his way. But he needed to run. He needed his name on the ballot paper. So he moved on from the PDP to Zenith Labour Party. And then Daddy brought in a name. His political godfather or mentor, whatever you may put it, is Olusegun Mimiko. The historical perspective that he brought is very interesting because in 2008, when Mimiko ran, Mimiko was running not just against the incumbent, he was also running against the presidency. Because Obasanjo had invited Mimiko and advised him to step down and run with Agagu. And Mimiko said no, he was going to go solo. That was a man who had just left Obasanjo's government as a minister. Now, he went solo and he was described as Iroko, the tree that stands alone in the forest. I remember at a point when Obasanjo visited Ondo State and people had gone to the airport to receive him, and chants of Iroko, Iroko, Iroko rent the air. Obasanjo got so angry and shouted the people down. And then told them not to shout Iroko here, that Iroko is a tree in the forest. But Mimiko created an upset and a history yet to be surpassed in our political history. He stood alone and went against the forces of retrogression. Now, I see the same thing here. I'm not suggesting that I'm not giving the victory to anybody. Yeah. I particularly don't think that they stand a very good chance. But I see the political trajectory of Mimiko as somebody who wants to create a political, if you like, structure of his own within the national polity and does not want to walk in the shadow of anybody. Okay. Which is one reason I think he didn't join the APC when Tinubu was at his zenith of power. And APC seemed to have been ravaging the entire Southwest. You remember that it was only Mimiko who was the big name in the Southwest then who refused to join the APC. So I think he's trying to make a statement and build a political structure. And told Agbola is also not a pushover. Agbola is somebody that had about 627 or 625. In the primaries, he ran in the PDP against Eita Jegede, who had been there since 2016. So he's not a pushover. He's said to be a grassroots politician. And I think also that's going to come to play. So by and large, the man that seems to have a more ordered house right now is the incumbent governor. Unlike in Edo State here, where the ruling party did not stand with its candidate in the 2020 election. They couldn't do a final mega rally because we were told that some of the governors from the other states were not disposed to it. The president's body language did not look like the candidate was his favorite in 2020 here in Edo State. But the scenario is different in Ondo State. In Ondo State, several governors attended the mega rally. The president has also made a statement. In fact, he said Akeredolu was a good product to sell. So the people of Ondo State are now in a position to judge among these three. Has Akeredolu performed? Does he have performance to speak for him apart from this political party unity and political party support that he's getting? That is going to come into play. Okay. Jagede himself, reputed to be a very intelligent man, and if you listen to him, you will have no doubt about that. Now, has this moral booster that he was able to stay with the party. In fact, his greatest loyalists are peddling that he stayed with the party despite the court case and stayed with the party up until now, which is the reason why they will not give the ticket to Agbola. So Jagede has that to parade. He seems to be urbane, civilized, humble and all that. So we are entering into a race that is going to be very interesting. Okay. And I think the people on ground have better judgments about these things.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. I mean, it's so rich with the perspectives that you've all brought to bear, looking at Ondo State, both in terms of governance and in terms of the politics that have been on display in that state. Just to let you know that reporters are in Ondo State covering the 3 senatorial districts. And as we get along in this conversation, they will be feeding us with the updates on how the election is going in on this state. So this is just the best spot to stay. Independent television and radio to get the latest update on the Ondo State governorship election. But let's just take you through some of the things that you need to know about the Ondo State governorship election. We already have some reports coming in. Unit, I don't know if this is Unit 1 in Iloro Ward 4. INEC officials already seated at 7:30 a.m. waiting for the exercise to commence. That came from Best in Biri. Thank you, Best. This is the picture from Iloro Ward 4. INEC officials already seated here, waiting for the electorates to come. This is what we're talking about. And this is, we hope this is sustained in other parts of the state where the election will take place today. But just to keep you up to speed with some of the things that I said you need to know, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has 17 political parties on the ballot papers for today's election. Voters in the 18 local government areas, according to what is available, evenly spread across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. And we elect one of the 17 to govern the state for the next 4 years. Well, the race for Alagbaka Government House, that's what the Government House in those states is known, is widely seen as a tight contest between the 3 lawyers from 3 different senatorial districts and the 3 major political parties in the state. So you have 3 lawyers contesting in 3 different senatorial districts of the state. All right, that's an interesting one, because it means that what you have is what will speak for you. We're not looking at the Edo State scenario where we probably think that, okay, well, Edo Central, you know, they are looking in one direction. Edo North is looking in one direction. Edo South and Edo Central, they're probably in one direction. But this one looks like the votes spread across the 3 senatorial districts. What with the fact that the 3 candidates, not just that they are lawyers, they are also from the 3 senatorial districts. And who are these candidates? You have the incumbent governor, as Chris alluded to a while ago, Rotimi Akeredolu, who is a member of the APC, the incumbent governor, and also the APC governorship candidate. And then you have Eitayo Jegede, who is the candidate of the PDP. And then you have Zenith Labour Party candidate, that's Agbola, who of course is still the deputy governor of Ondo State, even in this election. That brings a whole lot of interesting dimensions into the conversation that we're going to be having today. So these 3 major candidates, according to what is available, have strong structures in the 18 local government areas of the state. And so just on Tuesday, the chairman National Peace Committee and former head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar, enjoined the contestants to commit to the spirit of peace, a code signed ahead of the poll. So we'll hope that will also come to play, because before today's election, there were pockets of violence in the state. Of course, you heard our panelists mention some of the incidents relating to each of the candidates that is participating in the election. But it's not just the 3 candidates that are participating. We told you that INEC is going to provide 17 ballot papers for this election. And that's another aspect of the conversation that we're going to be having. But let's just take you through the other. Yes, Zenith Labour Party, Agbola Ajayi is the candidate. Then we look at others, other candidates that are also participating in the election. Okay, you have ADC, Adelegon Adedayo Oluwaseyi is contesting. Then you also have Dotun Ojon of YPP. All right, and then Rotimi Akindejoye of Accord Party, that's the AP. And then you have Adekunle Adeleye of the AAC. All right, and then what more can we bring you? Okay. Then you also have other candidates such as AA, and the candidate of that party is Joshua Adewale. ABGA gubernatorial candidate Olowo Olowoloba Dele, and then of course you have APM, Aminu Akim, and then you have, okay, just let me keep you up to speed with what is coming in Ward 5, Ijebu 2 Owo. This is where the governor, Akeredolu, is expected to vote, and this is the picture that is coming from Ward 5, Ijebu, and you can see that the officials are already on the ground. Security agents are also on the ground just to ensure that everything goes smoothly. All right, so we're having this live picture coming from Ward 5, Ijebu 2 Owo, where Akeredolu is expected to cast his vote today. And interestingly, it's a rainy day. Maybe the people of Ondo State didn't really fast enough and pray enough just to have a climate weather like we had here, because it's rainy. And that may be a major factor in the response of the people to the election. But let me just quickly get through with the background information that you need to have. APP's candidate, Olaoluwa Adesanya, and Labour Party's candidate, Taiwo Okunade. Others are NPP's candidate. You have Eniola Olajuni, and NRM's candidate, Jenyo Atanuko, and then PRP's candidate, Francis Ali. The SDP's candidate, Peter Fashwa, said he has stepped down. So, well, even though he stepped down, INEC has gone with the preparation and printing of ballot papers.
Yes.
His name will still be
collapsed
there.
his
And
structure.
unfortunately, people are probably still going to vote for him when they get to the voting center. So let me get Sadam Saliu in here. Interesting scenario, right?
Very well, as you highlighted, there are 17 parties and 17 candidates supposedly contesting the election.
Yeah.
But earlier this week, we were told reliably that 11 of the 17 collapsed their structures for Jagede, the PDP candidates. So when you remove 11 from 17, you have 6 as it were. So there will be 17 political parties on the ballot box, but we are told they have consensus ad idem of 17 of them for one party, the PDP. Then, as for the sitting governor, his mega grand finale was very remarkable because over 12 APC governors came to rally around him. Then, the third force, the third eye, Agbola Ajayi, which is sitting deputy governor, and is the surrogate of a miracle wonder, Mimiko. So it cannot be left above. But all the same, if we are to be soothsayers and clairvoyants, we can look forward to the governor of the day, Akeredolu, still getting the upper hand because the facts are there on the ground, and he can have some advantage vis-a-vis the other one. The 11 people that could have structures for PDP, nobody knows exactly how powerful they are. So INEC too has promised that it will be an improvement on the Edo election if Edo was successful, because we don't want inconclusive election as it used to be some years ago. We want those states to be conclusive, and let us see. So INEC has promised us with his personnel, they are improving from one election to the other.
Okay. Let me just take this update coming in now. This is from Odigbo, low compliance with use of face masks. You find that in Unit 4, Ward 8, Odigbo, low compliance with use of face masks. I mean, that's certainly going to be a hard thing to implement because in the campaigns and the rallies that the politicians are carrying out, you don't talk about compliance with social distancing. You don't talk about compliance with the use of face masks. But I want us to look at one unique thing about this election, which is the fact that the incumbent governor is in APC. The incumbent deputy governor
is in Labour.
Was in APC, moved to the PDP as incumbent deputy governor, ended up at the Zenith Labour Party as the incumbent deputy governor, as well as the governorship candidate of the Zenith Labour Party. What are your thoughts on this development? Because this brings some uniqueness into the election.
Yeah, it's true that our democracy is developing because as a citizen of this country, you have the right to run for election under any party of their choice. And I think this, brought to fore what transpired in Edo State, where the governor of Edo State, Governor Baseki, was refused ticket by his party, APC, and he ran to PDP, and PDP was able to give that opportunity by giving him ticket to be their flag bearer. And just concluded the governorship election, and he won as a governor. The fact that if he was refused that opportunity, probably today he wouldn't have been governor of Edo State. And so it is a way of allowing people to exercise their legal rights as far as elections are concerned. And like my learned friend, in the case of APC against Ali, the Supreme Court through Vival GSC said that a candidate can move from one party to another, and whatever that transpires is the business of the parties. It's not justiciable, and that settles that issue. I think it is a way of allow people to exercise their franchise, and also to seek for election, because ordinarily the fact that you're a member of a party does not mean that if the manifestos of that party is no longer in line with your personal belief, your personal principles, or the principles you believe in, as far as governance is concerned, that you cannot move from that party to another party. But to me, I feel that political parties are not secret courts, are not secret societies. It's a party where you can exercise your fundamental rights, as it were, especially where it concerns the future of that state and the future of the citizens of that state. So I believe that it is a good development if members of a political party who feel satisfied with the manifestos of their particular party, allowing them to seek for a ticket to run for elections in another party, is a welcome development as far as democracy is concerned.
Okay. Chris, you share in his opinion?
Yes, first of all, I'm very happy to be protected by the law, because if the lawyers here think that is an exercise of one's fundamental human right, then we can now begin to look at the political reasons why such actions happen. Okay. Yes, the legal question is not, the legal matter is no longer in question.
Of course.
Now, I always tell people that we have to be realistic in our society. If we close that kind of window for people to be able to have escape routes, escape verbs, then we are going to so emasculate our democracy, we'll never have a democracy in Nigeria. We live in a country where people can so skew processes, manipulate processes when they are in power and in positions of authority, that if you don't have that kind of window of escape to be able to ventilate your views and to be able to exercise your rights elsewhere, you will find that you just have a few people who will rule this country forever, because they will always manipulate the process to their own favor. So I am very happy and I feel very comfortable that the law itself recognizes this. And that's why Agbola today is running under Zenith Labour Party. Now, the point is this. Agbola, what is his mission? You see, whatever you are doing, the electorate can never be fooled. They are watching you and they understand you. The problem that happened between him and the governor, we are not ONDO people. ONDO people will be more privileged to have detailed matters that happen between them. And so if he protested because injustice was being meted out to him, because state powers were being used to manipulate and destroy his political career, if he protested as a result of that and he moved because of that to another party, the sympathy is going to go with him. Those who understand his reason for movement and who want to, fight for the path of justice are going to go with him. And I think he has that sympathy, judging by the number of people And that brings me to Jagede's choices. Because Agbola came a close second. He had 888 in the primaries. And Agbola had about 627 or 625 in the primaries. And I was told that party leaders, up to the NWC of PDP, tried to prevail on him to make Agbola deputy, so that they can secure the entire constituency that Agbola is controlling today and the one he is controlling. So they present a single formidable force against Akeredolu, who seemed to be very comfortable in the position he is in right now. That must be said. He seems to be very, very comfortable. And it will take quite a miracle, in my own opinion, to displace him from that position. Because, you see, come to think of it, the first thing although people think about when they are looking at candidates is what are the pedigrees, especially intellectual and academic pedigree. Whatever others have to offer, Akeredolu has it to offer. That was the former NBA chairman. And I think he's a son. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria. So also is Jagede. Yeah, so he doesn't come low in that. Yeah. And in development, quite a lot of people think that he has tried. He's laying certain foundations, just as we thought here in Edo State. So, and then his party, which was the problem, where they had a group like GPM you had in Edo State, all of that he was able to resolve, you know, before he got to the primary. So that makes him formidable. Now, when you have splinter opposition, it does not look like a very formidable force against him. That's just my own opinion. So now they were trying to prevail on Jagede to say, look, think of it this way, and whatever choice you think you have. But he went to take Ikeloju Boluga, who is a serving House of Rep members, and that also brings me to another question. I always thought that politicians should have their particular, so to speak, area of specialization. This jumping from house to legislature to executive to legislature, it's only judiciary you cannot jump into because it's specialized.
Because it's not elected.
Yes, I find it very uncomfortable. If you are elected to represent a constituency in the House of Assembly, I think that's a very important position. If service was your interest, and your people to serve your people was your interest, then you even find senators appointed as ministers, and they will abandon their Senate position and go to take ministerial positions. So if you want to serve in the executive cadre, I thought you should define that from the very beginning. But for you to have won election, and then you are now in the House of Rep, and you are representing the constituency. The man is the one representing Okitipupa constituency. And it's that same constituency, the former, chairman of Okitipupa constituency, and even some other people in the Okitipupa constituency are not in his support.
Okay. Yes. So let's see how all of this will play out in today's election. But something I also would love us to comment on is attempts were actually made to impeach the deputy governor in the ONDO State House of Assembly, which of course didn't really materialize. But I think, just like Barrister Umbarifo said, this is apparently a reflection of deepening our democracy maturing. Yes, let's take a look at what's coming in now. INEC presiding officer Amadu Okbayami in Ward 5, Unit 6, reading out the guidelines for the conduct of the election to prospective voters. Let's take a listen.
2:30 p.m. would be accredited to vote, but anyone who comes after 2:30 p.m. would not be allowed to join the queue. By 2:30 p.m., a security personnel shall stand at the end of the quarter queue, indicating that voting is ended and queue closed. Queues must be orderly, and voters on a queue must maintain a distance of 2 meters, which is 6 feet from each other. Any voter showing symptoms of COVID-19, such as temperature of up to 33 degrees Celsius, as well as coughing, sneezing, among others, will be politely requested to leave the queue or voting area and shall be attended to by designated officials. Wearing of face mask is mandatory at all times, and improvised face masks using handkerchief, scarf, or such material is acceptable. You are not allowed to put on a branded face mask with the insignia or unique identification of a political party. Avoid unnecessary touching of surfaces or leaning on walls and other surfaces at the polling unit. If you are not accredited, you will not vote. Check your PVC to see if this is the polling unit allotted to you. If this is not the polling unit, you are advised to go to the polling unit allotted to you. If your name is not in the registers of voter and you do not have...
course, INEC official there reading out the guidelines to the electorate so they know exactly what is expected of them, and then they stick to it, do not go outside the guidelines, otherwise the unexpected could happen. But we hope that the people will listen and act accordingly. We're just looking at some of the undercurrent in this election and how it will shape today's outcome. Our panelists now, I want to say big thanks again to Christopher Ojekere, Barrister Mbanefo Alakwe, and Barrister Adams Aliyu. Chief Ebi Thomas is waiting for our second segment to come out and give us some insights too as far as this election is concerned. But let me come back to you. Yeah. A whole lot is expected. What with the fact that this state has set a template based on the outcome of the election, the participation of the people. I saw a material yesterday, just I couldn't really get the exact figures. The level of political consciousness in Ondo State is very, very high. Over 1.6 million registered voters or so, and then you have about 1.3 million voters card collected. You just have a little above 300 something that are uncollected. That's something we're looking forward to in this election. I'd like to get your comments along those lines, in addition to what you plan to say originally.
Ondo State, as we have observed, is a very enlightened state. We have never had such a scenario. 3 eminent lawyers are contesting all the candidates, and each one presenting a local government, a senatorial district. With the observation made by my colleague here, when Agbola left one party to another, it was in fulfillment of a celebrated locus classicus, the judgment by Olabode Rose Vivor, March this year, that if you disagree with your party, the option is for you to go away. And to choose a candidate of a party is an eternal matter for that party, not for any other thing. So you can metamorphose as many as possible. Agbola from APC to PDP to Labour Party. So he was decided that because the Supreme Court has ruled. Then, here or two, we hear of a case of security. The place has been virtually militarized with soldiers parading. It was not so in Edo State. Soldiers are parading, 4,000 policemen are on ground. So the tendency to cause problem, snatch ballot buses, will not be there. Then for this very Ondo State, the incumbent governor has much at stake. That's the paraphernalia of office, and he's trying to use them. And the APC has observed that if they lost Edo 2-3 weeks ago, they are not ready to lose another state again in quick succession. So that is why they are doing everything possible. As for moving from the legislature to the executive, we know that Montesquieu has told us long ago, separation of powers, legislative, judiciary, and executive. We equally know that there is primus inter pares. The executive is the first amongst equal, the prime among the three. So that is why we have seen people in House of Rep jumping to go and contest election in the executive. In most cases, deputy governor or even governor. So because that is where the power is. Money to be used by the legislature is approved by the executive. Money to be used by the judiciary is approved by the executive. So people run to the executive, and it will not be the first time that somebody is leaving the House of Rep wants to be in the executive, whether as governor or deputy governor. And not only that, ambition should be made of external stuff. Each of these candidates, each one is ambitious. They look for where they will get their bread.
Okay, let's take a look at this update. It says accreditation and voting in progress at Unit 12 Odigbo Center. The elderly are given priority. This is just 9 a.m., past 9 actually. Voting and accreditation already in progress in Unit 12 of the Odigbo Center in ONDO State. So NYS officials apparently attending to some of the early birds in this election, but specifically the elderly have been given priority, which is something that has been a part of our culture. The elderly, pregnant women are usually given priority attention to participate in the election. And then, in line with what I was saying a while ago about the number of registered voters, from what we have on the INEC portal, ONDO State has 3,009 polling units, and then 203 registration areas in all the 18 local government areas of the state. It has 1,822,346 registered voters, while 1,478,460 of PVCs were distributed, and 343,886 of PVCs remaining uncollected. The implication of the above is that only 1,478,460 voters that have collected their permanent voters' cards are expected to come to the various polling units to exercise their franchise. Today, according to a research carried out by Yaga Africa, they said that ONDO State recorded 10% increase in the number of registered voters between 2016 governorship election and 2019 election. They also went ahead to say that ONDO Central District, that is ONDO Central Senatorial District, has the highest proportion of registered voters, that's about 41%, while Akure South in ONDO Central has the highest proportion of registered voters, 15.9%. These are some of the facts that you need to know and look into as we go into this election. Let me get Barrister Alakwe Mbanefo. Yeah, what do you make of these figures? Looking at the number of registered voters who have collected their PVCs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my learned friend has earlier said that this state is very much have the highest percentage of educated men and women in Nigeria, and they appear to understand the importance of one exercising his or her franchise better than most of the states. And the whole thing boils down to the game of politics is that the man who gets the highest number of votes becomes the governor of the state. And but apart from the number of people that registered and the number of people that haven't collected their voters or whatever, the whole election today will be tied to the number of those registered voters
who collected their PVCs.
Who collected their PVCs.
Yes.
Anything more than that will amount that the election has been rigged. You know, but if we are working within the framework of the number of registered voters, and at the end of the day, those who are eligible to vote today are those who actually registered and collected their PVCs. But I want to digress a little bit. That outside what my co-panelists have said, today appears to be a very wonderful day in the ITV because you have a crop of wonderful, well-detailed panelists. Pastor Louis is there. I'm a very good friend. I think I've been for the first time. Has given a very comprehensive history of all those things. I was quite impressed about that.
Thank you.
And so, I know, apart from what I've all said here about history of that state and what is coming to play today, my own opinion is that outside those beautiful submissions, I have a feeling that the economy of the country and of that state and appears to be going to also play a very big role today. As far where were we about 5 years ago when this government came to power and where we are today? Are we really making progress in terms of economy? Are the people of Edo State really happy? Is the economy improving? Is the life of average Odo man really improved? What has the governor put in place to actually improve on the life of these people? How we look at the Medicare system? Is there an improvement there? Education system? Is there any improvement there? In the areas of infrastructure, is there any improvement there? And all that. Like in the case of Edo State, where we are talking about what governor have done here, looking at the power plant, looking at the motor refinery, looking at the secretariat that was about 40 years back, and how it was put back to life, looking at civil service reforms and all that, looking at the stadium, looking at the pension, the ability to pay pensioners, ability to pay teachers and all that, has all this come to play in Ondo State. So, because beyond their academics, beyond their what they know, beyond the cross-carpeting from one party to the other, beyond the legal position and all that, and what is most important is the economy, and if there have been an improvement on infrastructures, and if the people are really happy with the incumbent government, and all this will come to play. So these cards, the number of registered voters and the number of those who collected their voters cards can only function on the premise of all I've articulated as regards the economy and infrastructure development of the state, as regards as to whether the people, the health sector, there have been improvement on it and all that. So that actually is what determines how the voters card goes and how the voters vote.
Okay.
That's my take on that.
Yes.
Yes.
This number.
I'm happy he's bringing in matters of development and performance. Yeah, so I will just tie it to what I wanted to say about those figures.
Yes.
Now, first of all, we want to commend Ondo people for the number of registered voters, or more importantly, the number of those who were able to collect their PVCs.
1 million,
1 million plus.
478,460.
Exactly. We are not also to assume, I mean, to be novel, if we have all of that coming out to vote. But if it does follow that the more number of people that collected their PVC, the higher the percentage you expect the turnouts of voters. Let us hope that the weather will be kind to them. Now, but I need for you to take note of the specific analysis of the districts that collected the highest number of PVCs.
Yes.
So you are expecting, so to speak, a higher voter turnout there. And that's the Central Senatorial District.
Yes.
That's where Mimiko is from. Are you following?
Yeah.
And so you can see why Mimiko, because this time again, Obasanjo tried to talk to him again for his candidate to work with Jegede, and he also turned Obasanjo down politely and said he was going to run alone. So Mimiko is a politician. He's looking at those figures. It's like the Edo South in the case of Edo State. Okay. That's what Central is in Ondo State.
Okay.
So he's looking at the 40+% of registered voters that have collected their PVC from Edo South. But Daddy referred to in his earlier opening about a kind of tacit agreement among Ondo people that each senatorial district should be allowed to do an 8-year tenure. And now Owo is in Edo North. Ondo North, from where Akeredolu is. And he has done 4 years. That is why I said what he said becomes very important now. Because beyond that tacit arrangement, which has always worked for them, and which has remained a kind of established thing, though unspoken, if the performance of the governor does not justify why Ondo people will need to give him another 4 years, then that population spread is going to become important. Okay. Mimiko, who is from that place, is going to cash in on that. And if he succeeds in convincing his people from, say, Ondo Central, that this governor's performance is woeful and we cannot support, and they withdraw their support. And then the little from the south, they get it. So that's why I say you cannot just dismiss any of the candidates here. If the governor has got it right politically, has he got it right in terms of performance, in terms of development? Because you are dealing with an enlightened set of people, and the kind of revolution that happened in the Edo State here in the 2020 election is showing a kind of paradigm shift in thinking that established traditional political stereotype ideas will not just prevail. Now you have to have some tangible evidence to back it up, to say, look, this is why we have to go this trajectory and this way. So it is very important, and it's going to come to play. What has Akeredolu been doing in the past 4 years that will make Mimiko's population to say, okay, look, we know you are our man, but let us allow him to.
So this is the man to beat.
Yes. So,
okay, Vice absolutely,
the earlier mention about impeachment is a real constitutional issue. Constitution talks of 2/3. So this is never an easy fraction to get.
But in some places it's really easy.
Very, very difficult.
Some places it's very easy.
You work it out before they start.
Exactly.
So that is why the sitting deputy governor in Ondo cannot be easily impeached. You need 2/3. Now we are talking of 66, 67 out of 100. Obviously, he has his own supporters. You can never get that number. So that's why he's free to jump from one place to another. Then, although you were observing the rainfall, bad weather, the force majeure that can postpone an election is if there's war, if there's a state of emergency. If not, if rain fall cat and dog, hyenas and elephants, the few people who vote will be the determinants of the election. So nobody will postpone the election for other people. They should go into the rain, take their PVC and go and vote.
All right, we'll keep tabs with all the happenings in Ondo State governorship election, and as we told you, we'll do our best just to ensure that we're able to help you have insight into the election as it unfolds. Story we're monitoring on this day give us insight into how some of the things that have taken place. We've got Aigboje Ikworia, who is live with us from Ondo State. Ikworia, good morning. Thank you for joining our live studio.
Good morning, Sonny.
Yeah.
Right here in Ondo State, election has started, especially in the areas where we are covering. That is Igbarauke, the local government in Ondo State. Right now, we just finished from Ward 10, Unit 11, which is Irigi Ward, St. Luke's Primary School, where the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Ondo State, Bamidele Olenegun, just voted.
That's the speaker. We're seeing the speaker now. Yeah, go on. Yes, go on.
The speaker has expressed optimism that the elections right now is going smoothly and that there are no cause for alarms yet, because he said that the voters came out to vote for their preferred candidates, which the election is currently going on smoothly and there are no issues as we speak right now.
Thank you.
When we got to Ward 3, Unit 1, that's St. Joseph's Primary School in Igbarauke. There are these observations that people are raising currently, that the agents of the political parties on the ground are spying to see which and what political parties the electorates are voting for, which some of the electorates are saying that it is wrong and they will not accept it, and they are calling on security agents to come to that particular ward and unit to ensure that this is not done anymore.
Thank you, Ikworia. Just a moment, Ikworia. How would you describe the level of turnout in the area you've monitored so far? You talked about Ward 10, Unit 11, Igbarauke. What's the level of turnout? What's the level of response of the electorate?
Talking about the response on the side of the electorate, they actually are coming out this morning. They are coming out in the number, and they are also wearing their face masks, and they are just that we are not seeing the social distancing thing that INEC had talked about earlier, that they are going to be enforcing during the elections. But the people actually came out this morning to vote for their preferred candidate, and the number is impressive.
Ikworia, thank you very much. We'll keep tabs with you to get more updates as we get along on our conversations on ONDO 2020. Thank you. Okay, Aigboje Ikworia there giving us insights into areas that he's monitored. Turnout quite impressive, and there were early turnout as a matter of fact, and then we saw the Speaker Ondo State House of Assembly casting his vote there, more or less giving example to others. And then some other interesting stories that are emanating from where Ikworia spoke with us is the issue of the intentions of party agents to buy votes. Why I said that is because they are monitoring the electorate to see who they vote for, perhaps to re-strategize or what to do And then he also talked about no social distancing, even though the lecturers, they are wearing their face mask. We actually saw that in that video we showed you a while ago. But gentlemen, let's quickly look at some of the issues that are coming forth now. And the fact that the people are standing up to say, look, this is unacceptable, and they're calling the attention of security agents, that's taking ownership. Let me get your thought, Chris.
You know, people don't know when the revolution is starting. I made an allusion to it just now. The Edo election has set a bar, and it is still fresh. It happened just September 19th. It's less than 1 month. And the ideas that were generated by that election in the minds of people is that Nigerians can have it right if the people stand up against the system, the status quo, to say, look, things have to be done right. And ONDO is our next door neighbor here. And if you know the history of ONDO people, they are very resilient people, inexorable in their attitude. So the people, the social media has connected the youths around the world. We are discussing ONDO here as if it's our state. Youths have been discussing these things on social media. People are interested. And they have known that, look, why can we not get it here in ONDO as they did in Edo State? In Edo State, there was a lot of civil resistance. In fact, in my unit, my cousin seized somebody's voter's card. The person was coming to vote twice. And he didn't know he has been spotted. I handed him over. And in fact, it was the security officers there that were trying to plead. And the boy said, you want to plead for a man who had voted? To come and vote again?
Second time.
Yes. So there was a lot of civil resistance to some of these things, and that's what you are seeing playing out there. The people want to ensure that the election should be free and fair, so that whoever emerges will be the choice of the ONDO people. The people are insisting on that. And then the security forces now have no excuse. If the people are willing to assist your duty, because it's the duty of the security forces, the party agents, and other stakeholders to ensure that you have a free and fair election, INEC and the security forces should support the people to say, well, if you now are ready to do the right thing, because we have always said it is the people or the politicians who resist the change. If the politicians still want to do it and people are saying, no, we don't want to go your way, then I should expect INEC and the security officials to be happy that this is happening. As for face masks and social distancing, as we observe here in the studio, I think among ourselves, it is going to be a very uphill task to inform
I know you want to be on that conversation, but let me just keep our viewers and listeners up to speed with what we're seeing now. Live pictures coming from ONDO State, from Ade Lori. It says accreditation and voting ongoing in Eleluji Ward 1, Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ileluji Okogbo local government area, same in Ward 2. Then, as we talked about a while ago, social distancing, I mean, is not really readily being complied with, but we can actually see a whole lot of people wearing their face mask. And then I'm also thrilled by the fact that the cubicle is well sealed, well protected, so that people can actually exercise their franchise without any iota of influence or manipulation by party agents, as it were. But let me get Bastion Banakwe to give us perspectives on some of this latest development with some of the areas where reports are coming in from in terms of the conduct of the election.
Yeah, thank you very much. The last time we were here, I spoke about the partnership of the people with the security agents and the INEC officials. And I was talking about that the only way we can get it right is when the citizens of the state or of the country see themselves as stakeholders in governance of the country and of the state. Unfortunately, what we have on ground, there are some group of individuals, some group of politicians have taken over the state as their personal enterprise. So they now dictate what happens. They now tell you this is the person that will want to be governor, and that person becomes the governor of the state. And of course, in the common parlance, we call it godfatherism, where a man will come and say this person must be governor, and he becomes a governor. So people did not see themselves as participants in that government. So like my friend said, what transpired in Edo State was a situation whereby there was a kind of a civil revolution, a civil revolution where individuals, where citizens now see themselves as partnership in governance.
Okay.
They now say, this is what we want, this is candidate we want. So most of the arrest that was done in the last election was done by the civilians themselves. Yeah. They handed over to the police. The police will now, arrest and do the needful. But unfortunately, the problem we're having in Nigeria is that the law, as it were, have not, does not have enough teeth to bite as to when it gets to electoral offenses. So that aspect of the law should be reinforced so that it will have enough teeth to bite. Because the whole thing that we see on television is that at the end of the day, when people commit this offense, after committing the offense, they're not being tried. They're not being convicted and all that. And even if they do, the punishment that is prescribed by the law is too minute compared to the kind of offenses that have been committed. And so a few days ago, Nigeria was celebrating independence, 60 years of independence, of getting political independence from Great Britain. Unfortunately today, we are having a new kind of colonialism where politicians are now colonizing the citizens of the state, where some politicians who see themselves as godfathers are now seeing the state as their property. So in this country today, you can sit down and say, count about 5-10 people who owns Nigeria. And that was what we had on ground when a particular minister was said to have signed for a Chinese loan without really reading the terms and conditions of that loan. And a loan that was given to the country needs to be written in a language that the executive will understand, like my friend was talking about executives. But in this case, the loan passed through the legislators. And legislators did not read in between the lines. They did not know that the sovereignty of the country was at stake, was mortgaged for that loan. And at the end of the day, the said minister couldn't explain it. The only excuse he gave was it was written in Chinese language. And so a situation whereby we see ourselves being decolonized by our own brothers and sisters is very, very bad. Okay. So, and the people, like my friend said, now have seen it as a duty to free themselves from this colonialism. Yeah. It's very, very wrong. So I think there's a new revolution right now where the people are now seeing themselves as partners in this particular project called governance and leadership.
Okay. Yes, let's get your take on this report of electorates resisting attempt to expose other electorates to vote buying. I mean, if the electorate themselves will say, look, no, you don't need to try to display your voter card. Once you finish printing, take it and drop it in the ballot box. Let's get your take.
That is enlightenment. During the campaigns, people were told that they are partners in progress, that you can equally help. So you contribute your quota. In fact, some parties were saying that you should hang around after voting to defend your vote. Because if you vote and go away, there'll be nobody to monitor irregularities. When people try to agitate for state police and all that, they are thinking that people who know the land, who own the land, if they are policemen, they'll be able
well, let's get Efosa Wangwe on. Efosa, thank you for joining our live studio. Which area of Ondo State are you covering? Yes, good morning.
I want to give situation report from ONDO East and Ileloje local government areas.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, I thought about 8:30 thereabouts. We visited some wards in Borodo, in Ondo East. We actually visited 3 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Accreditation started exactly 8:30 because even the INEC officials there refused to commence accreditation until it gets to 8:30. The people actually conducted themselves. It was orderly. So left there, went to every Ward 7 in Ondo East. The voters were being educated on how to go about voting because of this COVID-19 protocol. The INEC official was actually suggesting whether to use maybe after 10 persons, others can come. But it's like the people were not too comfortable with that, and they just said, since they're already putting on their face masks and the temperature everything should just be carried out that way. So we just left there. I went to Elukuje, so where voting is already ongoing. So the situation so far is calm. In some of the areas we noticed that the turnout is getting improved, unlike where we started. So we are hoping that before it gets thick, more people will come out. So far so good. The situation has been calm. We've not seen any kind of casualty or otherwise. The security situation is also very, very much tight. That's the situation from this end for the now.
Okay, we heard there was a heavy downpour this morning. Did this in any way reflected in
No, unfortunately, in this area I'm covering, there was no downpour.
Okay.
The place is very calm and the weather is so friendly.
All right, thank you, Fosa Wangwe. We'll keep tabs with you to get more updates as we get along.
You're welcome.
Fosa Wangwe there, also giving us a situation report from ONDO East on the conduct of the election so far, accreditation of voting in progress. Now, we come back to the issue of the people taking ownership. That also manifested there with the people saying, look, rather doing 10-10, I mean, the first 10, no, I mean, we're all here, we're wearing face masks. So that is the ownership in partnership with government, which is what you talked about a while ago.
Yes, I was observing that is the beauty of democracy. The people felt involved. The welfare of the people is the supreme law. Salutes for police, supreme and less. So the people decided to stay. If you want to vote twice, they know you, they will fish you out.
Okay, let's take this update now. Let's take this update from Alassane Bala. It says PDP governorship candidate Iyitayo Jegede and his wife arrived polling unit 9, Sacred Heart Cathedral Primary School, Akure. Sacred Heart Akure Primary School, Akure. They arrived at exactly 9 a.m. and that's the PDP candidate Iyitayo Jegede and his beautiful wife at the voting center, which of course is Unit 9, Sacred Heart Cathedral Primary School in Akure. Thank you, Alassane, for that video. So let's get you to
it is good that people are involved, because if you complain, if you are indifferent, the wrong people, quote unquote, can get voted.
Yeah.
So we have to commend the ONDO people who insisted that we don't want to come 3 hours later. We are already wearing face masks. You have sanitized us, so let us go. So it is commendable that they have taken their destiny in their hand. It shows that even during collation, they will not be aloof. They will be party to the processes that will culminate in the result.
All right, so some of these conclusions here, aren't they too early? I mean, the election just started and a whole day is ahead of us in terms of how the election will turn out. But I got something from, I think it was a call by Fosa Wangwe when the INEC official said the rules is that voting starts by 8:30. Even though you're all here already, but voting must start by 8:30. Let me get your take on this.
Yes, you see, because you don't make room for any form of, they've been well briefed and they know Nigeria. If they thought that they wanted to be overzealous and started voting earlier than is stipulated, people would say they were manipulating the process. So they want it to be as transparent and as open as possible, so that there will be no room for any contradictions or protests or queries. So that if they are questioned by their superior authorities, they'll be able to say, we follow the law, the rule book, and this is exactly what we did. So that's why they are starting at that, at that time. Yes.
Let's take a look at a dimension to the conversation, but just before that, we have this story now. Get this interview with a supporter of INEC REC monitoring this exercise. All right, so let's take this interview. So give us an insight on some of the observations made so far.
Okay. Yes, we are ready now. Let's go.
Emeka Ononamadu is my name. I'm the resident electoral commissioner, INEC Enugu. I'm drafted to supervise Owo, Ose, and Akoko Southwest as a supporting resident electoral commissioner.
So what has been your observation? The
observation has been fantastic, at least from the point of citizens. They've conducted themselves well, and they have done everything good to respect the COVID protocols. There is calmness all over the place I've been, and there is a considerable participation of people, improved membership. There is also good conduct from the security. You can see that all of them are trying to ensure that there is no challenge. So we are happy that it's going on the way we planned it so far.
So, sir, for a political observer, for some of them, they believe that Edo election, which recently held on the 19th of September, is now more like a pace setter for the democratic system or electoral system in Nigeria. Are we going to see what happened in Edo in terms of transparent and free and fair contest in Ondo?
I think you can see better. You can see better. You can see better than belief. We have a very positive hope that we are on the rise in terms of participatory democracy in Nigeria.
And can you assure the people that their votes will count?
All of us, all stakeholders have given that assurance even before this election. We didn't plan to fail, we plan to succeed. So we are all working out to make sure that all our plans come to fruition by the time the election is over.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We're grateful.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bessenberry, for that interview with an INEC officer in Owo, giving us the perspectives of the organization on the election so far. Calmness, conduct of officers good, and then the turnout is also very, very good. And we hope this is sustained all across Ondo State in this election. Then we got a call. This call is coming from Ondo State. We would like you to tell us your name and where you're calling us from, and let us know what the situation where you are voting. Hello, good morning. What's your name?
My name is Peter.
Think house.
Peter.
Okay, Peter, go ahead, Peter.
Please, the Ondo election is peaceful and it's calm.
Okay, talk about where you are. Where exactly are you voting? Where is your unit?
I'm voting in Ward 12, Ondo State.
Ward 12, unit what?
Unit 11. Unit 11.
What's the name of the ward? And
town. The ward is near this school. I've forgotten the school name.
So you don't know the name of the ward?
Town.
No,
what's the name of the town? What's the name of the town?
Please.
I've forgotten the name of the town. Please.
Okay, it means you're probably not from that. You're not from that place. Where are you from?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not from that place. I went to do something in that place. The place was calm.
No, you went to do something in that state. Are you a voter? Do you have a permanent voter card?
No. I'm voting in Benin.
Okay, you're voting in Benin. You want to do something there. You're just observing the conduct of the election so far.
Yes.
All right, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's not a voter actually. No. It's an interested person. It's a volunteer reporter. Eyewitness reporter, giving us the situation of Unit 11 or 12. But he didn't know the exact name of the place. But we're talking about some of the assessment of the election so far, particularly in Owo, just a few minutes ago. Then I was telling you that we need to also look at an aspect of the election, because earlier today, this report came through this day, talked about security personnel, including policemen and members of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, finding it difficult to commute to their different destinations in the riverine region of Eseldo and Elijah local government areas of Ondo State to carry out assigned duties in the governorship election. And these are the two local governments that qualified Ondo State as beneficiaries of the Niger Delta Development Commission. But let's take a look at this report now, so you can have an idea of what's happening there. Let's take a look at this report now. We have the former Deputy Speaker and member representing Ileoluji Okebo Digbo Federal Constituency, Akin Folarin Mayowa, who voted in Unit 12, Odigbo Center. Take a listen.
Odigbo Federal Constituency, the Federal House of Representatives.
You just how would you describe this?
Well, from the look of things, everywhere, everything is free, peaceful, and I pray that the thing will continue in that peaceful atmosphere.
The COVID-19 protocols, there's no compliance here. What do you think to do before?
Well, there's nothing anybody can do at this juncture because it is part of the process. But since the thing is not observed, it's not vitally important.
So what's your expectation of the end of the day?
Victory, of course. My party is victorious.
Which party, sir?
APC.
Sir, introduce yourself again.
My name is Akinfola Imayo. I represent Ileoluji Okebo Odigbo Federal Constituency in the Federal House of Representatives.
Thank you very much.
What are you advise the voters across the local government?
Well, my simple advice is for them to be calm, to be peaceful, and allow the will of God to prevail, so that they should cast their votes and go back to their various houses.
Okay, former Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Ondo State House of Assembly, now a member of the House of Representatives, just cast his vote and also giving us his perspectives on the election. And just before we brought that interview on, we're talking about something happening in the Riverine community, which was a report that came in pretty early this morning, particularly for the Seldo and Ilaja local government areas, where we were told that security personnel and including the police and NSCDC officials were finding it difficult to commute to the Riverine areas. And we hear that as a result of this challenge, paucity of transportation, as it were, commercial motorcycles operators hiked their fares. Always the case. A journey between Ajagba and Kiribo, which is the town of the Zenith Labour Party candidate, for instance, which normally costs between 100 naira and 150, attracted 300 naira. This development may discourage and hinder people. It's been suggested there. Then, of course, at Ajagba and Irele local government area, which is the hub of the communities, talking about Agadagba, Arogbo, Kiribo, and Igbekodo. Voters and security personnel who have set out as early as 5 a.m. to beat the restriction in movement were still stranded. All right, so this is a major challenge, particularly with the riverine communities, and that seems to be an issue for every election. If you want to say something about this.
Yeah, I think that
logistics now.
Yeah. That brings INEC to question as to these ad hoc arrangements in every election. We expect that before now, we should have some permanent structures for INEC. They ought to have speedboats, and those speedboats will be manned by people that knows the area very well. An election where you have brought in about 40,000 police officers from other states to help the ones in the state, most of the officers may not know the terrain of that particular environment. So it requires that INEC ought to have acquired speedboats, get the gentleman who knows where the discipline units are to man the speedboats and take the security agents to that particular locations. A young man who has come from another state to ONDO is not expected to know exactly how to track the particular place he's posted without the assistance of INEC officials who know the terrain very well. So there's need to make some permanent arrangements before elections. We don't start to make arrangements just a week or 2 weeks before elections and expect a perfect logistics at the end of the day.
All right, so you want something to that?
It may not be the entire state, but when you have been able to identify, what you may refer to as states, particular areas in the state where you have challenges, like the riverine area, I should think that the security forces that will take charge of that area would even be there a few days before the day of election. Say maybe 2 days before the day of election. As he said, even if it's just to familiarize themselves with the terrain. And to also avoid problems like this where you now have to have a situation where you say they are stranded. If they are stranded in the morning of the election, and then you already have the sensitive materials conveyed earlier, and the sensitive materials are there, they're supposed to commence voting at the same time they are commencing across the other parts of the city, and the security officials are stranded.
Okay, let's
leave room for a lot of...
Let's take a look at this. We're just talking about the riverine communities, what we heard earlier, but this is coming in now from Alassane, both conveying INEC officials and election materials in a Seldo local government area of Ondo State capsizes. Rescue mission ongoing, no report of casualty. That's quite disturbing. Very, very disturbing. Very, very disturbing. Alassane, thank you for that beautiful report. Both conveying INEC officials and election materials in a Seldo local government area of Ondo State capsizes. Rescue mission ongoing, no report of casualty. We hope it stays that way, even though this has happened, because you can actually see from the video now some materials floating on the water. And you know that many rivers and seas are their full capacity now because of the level of rain, the downpour in the last couple of days. Many rivers are filled up with water, and that's a huge risk. But we hear that rescue mission is ongoing. So far, so good. No casualty. They must
be rescuing them with superior boats, which were there that could have conveyed the materials. We have here at Gele Gele, the present governor just acquired about 4 boats and another 4 gunboats. What stopped INEC from borrowing from the 4?
Yeah, you don't know if INEC actually borrowed them?
No, from the boats you are seeing, you are looking at local fishermen's boats.
If they were part of the ones...
No, you are looking at local fishermen's boats. Yes. Those boats don't capsize.
Yeah.
Those are the boats now, the kind of boats in quality they are using now to rescue the one that had capsized. And we're talking of the federal government, and huge amount voted for this logistics. That it is even happening this morning is very indictory.
Yeah, and you can see the waves on the, I don't know if it's a river or a sea. Well, you can see the waves. I mean, you see the way the boat is
undulating.
Yes, on top of the water. And then you can see the waves on top of the water. Yes. So it shows to you that it's quite risky. And just a few minutes ago, we were talking about this.
Exactly.
That the people who are supposed to be moved to this riverine community, they are stranded. All right, but
now they are on their way and they have even capsized. All of this should have been taken care of if it was 2-3 days earlier.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, these voters in the riverine area,
yes,
they are not voting on top of water.
Exactly.
Helicopter can do the job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go to the nearest land, use helicopter
to drop those materials.
And the people in that area are not voting on top of water.
They may vote on top of water. After all, in the last couple of days, we see people cooking on top of water. There's a video that has been trending online. I saw it one in Kogi State. They made fire on. I've never seen that before.
And this is a fire brigade approach. Waiting for the election day, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It's now
moving
boat with paddle doing that. They can higher speed vote or a day before use helicopter. So anyway, INEC is improving from election to election. Let's hope they will not allow a repeat performance. Obviously, the sensitive material will be destroyed now in the water. The people who were qualified to vote will not cast their votes now. Anyway, those ones will be wasted ballot. But the voting continues. The good news is that no casualty is lost. Since they are from that riverine area, they may be able to swim to safety.
Yeah, what about those who can't swim?
The officials and the security officials.
What about those who can't swim? What becomes their fate? Yeah, it's not mindful. I thought you want to say something about this development with the capsized boats with election materials.
Yeah, like my friend said earlier, the ONDO election is a little bit dicey. Dicey in the sense that the 3 candidates are from different locations. And I hope we will not have an inconclusive election with these logistic problems. Because what leads to rigging in Nigerian elections most times is when the INEC declares it inconclusive. Okay. Most times you see that if federal government wants a state to conduct a free and fair election, there must be a free and fair election. If federal government have interest in that state, then you're on your own. So these logistics problems, if it's avoided, you expect election that is conclusive.
This logistic problem really has nothing to do with the federal government or interest as it were.
It has
nothing to do with the federal government and logistics as it were. This is solely at the doorsteps of the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Exactly.
I think that's what it is. But we've got this video that we wanted to see. Is already on the screen from Alassane Bala again. Thank you. Accreditation and voting ongoing at Lekba Unit 4, Agbabu Ward, Odigbo local government area. Pretty scanty in terms of the people there, but you can also see that honor and respect is being given to the elderly who have provided chairs to sit. Security agents are also on the ground, and accreditation and voting ongoing in that unit in Odigbo. And then, of course, we can actually see the cubicle, which has been a major controversial issue or a subject of controversy in past election. But I think Anne got it right with the Edo State governorship election. That has been transferred to Ondo State election, and we hope that it stays that way. If it's open secret ballot, it should be open secret ballot. If it's secret ballot, it should be secret. But I think this is open secret ballot. You go secretly, thumbprint, and then you come in the open, drop it in the box. So the cubicle, is actually the way it ought to be, and we hope that this is the same report that we get from across the state. But interestingly, we have another report from Kingsley Uchegbu. Okay, not Alassane Bala. That report actually came from Kingsley Uchegbu, the one we have now on the screen. Thank you, Kingsley Uchegbu, for giving us an update in what is happening in the area that you're covering in the Ondo State governorship election 2020. Yes, in this picture, you can actually see a shade that was done locally, all right, with palm fronds, stakes, woods, and stuff like that. That's obviously a very remote community, and the people also took ownership by providing shelter just to ensure that the INEC officials, they are not sunbaked.
You can see the forest around the people.
Yes.
That's, I mean, if we are to extrapolate by what we are seeing, you can only describe this as a hamlet.
It's functional.
Yes.
But just for the purpose.
Yes.
It's functional.
Yes. Yeah. But think of the number of persons that you are seeing, even in that little hamlet.
Yeah.
Perhaps even the camp.
Yeah.
That tells you how people are getting involved these days in the electoral process. Old men are there sitting down, waiting patiently to vote. Judging by the clothes they are wearing, it's a very poor community. It's a hamlet, maybe a farm settlement.
Yeah.
But they are out there to vote their governor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's very impressive.
Very, very interesting. Yes. Very interesting. We also hear that in Akoko area of Ondo North Senatorial District, voting has started in many units as there was early arrival of materials, all right? And despite early morning rain in the area, electorates are already trooping to units in Oba, Akoko, and the environs in Akoko, southwest local government area of the state. The situation is the same at Ayengule Oka 1. There was also presence of unarmed security men at polling units. There are 4 policemen in each of the units. The situation was the same at Owo as material started arriving polling units as early as 8 a.m. According to this day, where the incumbent governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu hails from. Electorate complied with the COVID-19 protocols as the voters came to the polling station with face masks. That's easy to do, or it's easier to do. The poll officials also supplied sanitizer to the voters. There was presence of men of the Nigerian Army on Akure Owo Road to enforce restriction of vehicular movement. This was noticeable at Ogbese and Kare Junction on the Owo Ikare Road as at 7:17 a.m. All right, that's what we got from this day, also monitoring the election and covering the election. So we'll keep you up to speed with some of that latest development. INEC says a statement will be issued on the boat issue in due course, but all adult staff were safely rescued. Praise God. Praise God.
Thank God
Praise
for that.
God. Praise
Thank
God.
God for that.
So that's cherry news. INEC has promised to issue a statement on the boat mishap for its officials on their way to one of the voting centers. All adult staff successfully rescued. I'm sure those guys would have freaked out. Especially those who cannot swim. They would have freaked out completely. I mean, seeing the waves and the volume of water is enough to frighten you.
Exactly.
And then somewhere along the line,
I would not go on the fisherman's boat in that body of water I saw just now.
What if you are on duty? If you are on duty,
I would decline. Because you can provide speed boats. There are superior boats that will fly through that water. Instead of these paddled boats.
Okay, so we're actually seeing this picture again, but the beautiful thing is that all the adult staff of INEC rescued, no life lost, but certainly something was lost. Man hours will be lost, electoral materials will be lost, but that's the responsibility of INEC to ensure that election takes place in those units those guys were headed before the unfortunate incident took place. But going forward, like Vice Adams suggested, what's wrong with us getting a chopper, take these materials and deliver it where they're supposed to vote? But again, we actually have some of these people who live on water, all right? So the choppers can't get there.
So what happens? On water.
Yes, you will vote on water. They live on water. They feed on water. They do all kinds of things on water.
Yeah, but they have.
You are not fully put on water.
They spend they have their economic activities around water,
fishing.
and some of them live around it, but they have land behind it. I don't know anywhere because I've been to the deep Ijoy villages. Yeah, they still have land.
Okay, interesting. We're expecting more calls to come from reporters on the ground covering the election. We've got something from Kingsley Uchegbu, Alassane Bala. We also got something from Best Mbiri, Fosa Wangwe, and Agboji Korea set the ball rolling earlier. Others are still putting their stories together to feed us with, for us to update you on the ongoing Ondo State governorship election. As it relates to the boat mishap in which some materials, I believe, were lost, we have that INEC will issue an official statement later, but the most important thing about that is that no life was lost. Our studio line is there. If you're voting in Ondo State, we'll be glad if you go to call us and let us know how things are going in your unit or your ward where you're voting, so we can also help you to spread the news, spread the information, just in case there's anything untoward. Security agents can actually respond adequately to such a distress call. Expectations are high in this election, but some have said it's a three-horse race between the incumbent governor, the deputy governor, and of course the PDP governorship candidate. Yeah, but just like you said, we're waiting to see how all of these long names of candidates, that eventually started endorsing left, right, back, center, will add up to this election. Let me get a final word before we take a break, Chris.
All right. So far, so good, irrespective of the isolated contingency of the boat hap. From what we've seen so far, if they can continue in this trajectory, then we are looking to a successful Ondo election as we had it in the Edo State.
Okay, let's take a short break. We'll be back with you to bring you up to speed with the ongoings in the Ondo State governorship election. Once again, we thank you for staying with us, and do stay with us because we'll be back with you shortly.